What's going on, everybody? Sean Daniel with Guitar Control here. Today we're going to talk about guitar intervals, specifically the last few that you will find in a scale. So this is going to be a cool lesson that can maybe help you with your lead playing, help you understand guitar chords and structure a little bit more. So make sure to click the link below because I'm going to tab out everything we're doing in this lesson today. And we are going to start off in the people's key, the key of G. So what is an interval? An interval is a distance between two notes. You can measure an interval in a couple different ways. So if we start with this note here, third fret on the low E string is a G note, okay? The smallest interval that we can have is 1 fret, from the third fret to the fourth fret. Now, you can measure this in steps. This can be called a half step, or you can measure it in an interval called a minor second. Really, there's no difference, okay? Now, if this is a half step, this, 2 frets, is a full step, okay? This can also be called a major second. And that's where I kind of want to start talking a little bit about the major scale. The major scale is really how we name pretty much all these intervals, all right? So before we even get into the specific intervals, which again, sometimes I remember before I really had any kind of grasp on music theory, the word interval just kind of spooked me a little bit. I was like, I don't really get down with that. Once we just go over the major scale real quick, this is going to be really super intuitive and something that's going to be really useful in your musicianship going forward. So if we take any major scale, which looks like this, 7 different notes, the 8th one is the first one again. That's really all we even have to understand. If you go over the frets, it would be 3E to 5E, 2A, 3A, 5A, 2D, 4D, 5D. And again, this is totally movable. Just because we're starting on a G, this makes this G major. If we started on an A, that shape would give us A major, okay? So if all we have to do is count through the notes that we just played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? So the first thing you might notice is really from 1 to an 8, there's a very specific name for that. It's called an octave. Makes a lot of sense, right? So other intervals are exactly the same. I want to focus on all the intervals that will take in separation from the A string to the D string, okay? So if we just play the A string root note and then we kind of skip all the other notes, we end up with 2D, 4D, and 5D. If we counted through these and we focus on just these 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? So we have a 1, a root note, a 6, a 7, and an 8. This is from the major scale, so the interval that we're going to call this, instead of like a 6, is going to be a major 6, okay? The distance from this G note to the 2nd fret on the D string, which is an E note, from G to E, is a major 6th interval, all right? Now what's the note after that? The 4th fret on the D string, this is actually an F sharp. That is going to be the 7th note in the major scale, so it's called a major 7th, all right? And then again, we talked about this before, an octave from one G to the next G. So G and its 6th, G and its major 7th, G and its 8th, all right? So if you notice, when you go through the notes in this scale, we actually skip one note on the D string. Right here, the 3rd fret on the D string, this would be an F note. F is not in the key of G, that's why we kind of hop over it, right? But there is a name for this interval as well. It's called a minor 7th interval, also known as a flat 7th, okay? Flat just means down 1, so usually the major 7 is right here. If we just took this and flattened it, we would get that, minor 7th interval. Another way you can remember that is if you have the G minor scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that distance is the 7th note in the minor scale, however you want to look at it. Flat 7, 7th note in the minor scale, same difference, okay? I think these are really valuable, especially on guitar, because a lot of times you'll see these string skipping, maybe riffs, played as chords. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with them. So it's really valuable to know where maybe a major 6, a major 7th is, an octave is, a flat 7, a minor 7 is. And all of the root notes in a key will have a 7th note interval associated with it, all right? So we already talked about everything off of G major. There are other chords in the key of G major, which we're going to start going to first, but I just want a really quick recap. A G note and its 6, a G note and its major 7th, and a G note and its octave, okay? Now, for pretty much any chord, the octave is always gonna be fair game because it's the exact same note, just the next pitch up, okay? As we've already discussed, this minor 7 is not really fair game in the key of G because it's a minor thing, okay? There are other chords, like we said, in the key of G where that minor 7th interval is gonna pop up. So, we're gonna take that 7th note and we're gonna go through all the chords in the key of G and find out where their 7th interval is and start stringing them together, okay? We already talked about the G, major 7, 3E to 4D, however you wanna play it. You can even kind of build a little chord out of this, like 3E, 2A, 4D. That's pretty much like a G major 7 kind of sound. Sounds pretty cool, right? So the next note in the key of G is A, which is, just like we went through the major scale, right here. Now if this were to become a chord, it would become a minor chord. All right, so stands to reason that its 7th interval is gonna be a minor 7. Minor 7 intervals are always easy to find because it's just the exact same fret, right? 5E to 5D. So far we've got 5E, or 3E, the G, to its major 7th, 4D, then 5E, the A, to its minor 7. The next note in the key of G would be a B, the 7th fret on the E string. We're gonna grab its minor 7 too, it's another minor chord. All minor chords have a minor 7 that you could add. So we've got the major one, G, minor, A, minor, B. The next note in this key is going to be the 8th fret, a C, otherwise known as the 4th chord in the key of G, G, A, B, C. 4 has a major 7 also, just like G does. So these two kind of little 2-note chords, if you want to look at them that way, diads or something like that, we can always connect to each other. Just like the minor chords, we can connect to each other. The way I'm strumming these, I'm just using my middle finger to mute the A string. That way I can use my pick to kind of scrape across all 3 strings, not hearing the A string. Major, minor, minor, major. The next note in the key of G, 10th fret, is a D. Now, it's a major chord too, but it actually doesn't have a major 7 interval like you might think. It has a flat 7, just like a minor chord, but it's a major triad. So that's why, you know, if you want to get a little farther into it, it's a dominant 7 chord because it's kind of like half major, half minor in a certain type of way looking at it. So it's another minor 7 interval that we have on the D note. The next one is an E, another minor one. So most of these intervals, as far as 7ths go, a root into its 7th, are going to be minors in the key of G. We have G major, A minor, B minor 7, C major 7, D, it's a major chord but it has that same interval, 7, E, also a 7, and then we get to the F sharp finally, which is the 14th fret, another minor 7 interval, and then finally back to G. So we have 7 chords, 7 main chords in the key of G. We don't even have to worry about what their actual names are. As far as the 7th interval goes, it's either going to be major 7 or minor 7. 5 of them are minor 7, so that's, you know, if you're just randomly guessing, minor 7 is kind of the way to guess. Only the 1 and the 4 chord in the key of G, that'd be a G and a C, have the major 7 interval. So again, we can play them all together. We have the first one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again, right? So you can use these as replacements for chords. Let's say I wanted to do something like a G major to a B minor, right? Back and forth, G major to B minor. But maybe I'm playing with another guitar player, I'm playing in a band with a bunch of different instruments, and that's a lot of notes going on. It's not really cutting through the mix, it's not standing out. Instead of just playing G major to B minor, I could grab the that's a totally different feel than, but it's still kind of the same essence, right? And then we can really run through all of them, like C, B, A, G. That's another kind of cool thing to do, maybe working your way backwards to a root note. Let's say we're about to end a song, and we want to end on G. One way we can do it is just maybe start with the 5th, which is a D, and work our way back through. Something like that, okay? All this is movable. You can even move it down a string. So if we're gonna do, all right, 3rd fret of the E string is a G. If we're gonna do everything down a string, what's 3rd fret in the A string? That's a C. So if the C is our 1 chord, we can grab the major 7 there. It's 2 chord, whatever it is, major 7 or minor 7. 3 is minor 7, 4 is major 7, 5, 6, 7, back to 1, okay? So right there, those are the 7th intervals for 2 entire keys, just like that, just by doing the same thing down a string. And again, this is gonna be on that tab. G, A, minor, B, it's minor 7, C, D, E, F sharp, G. The same thing with a C, major, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so this is just kind of an intro into 7th intervals, and I think you can really get some cool sounds, especially maybe once you start combining them in like cool ways where you're sliding around. Fun thing to do. It's really good practice too for your picking, maybe going down on the E string, up on the D string. It's kind of a cool thing to think about. So definitely let us know if you have any questions, any feedback you want to give us. Make sure to click on the other videos around here, but from myself and other great guitar instructors that we have on the Guitar Control channel. And please let us know what you want to see next, and I will see you next time. Thanks a lot.